Hello and welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports, and we are continuing our position preview series here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. And we continue to have our top-rated players on the site. And for today's position preview, the receiver one, I'm going to bring on Mark Mullin, who is a top-rated player on our site. He is a participant in the YouTube channel called Guys on Network. He streams a lot of the high-stake drafts on our site, and he's a frequent player as well. So you will see him a lot if you're at any drafts at RealTime Fantasy Sports. He does a great job. But I am thrilled to have Mark on the site today. Mark, thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Jeff, thank you for having me on. This is always an honor and a privilege of doing this. I love talking football, man. And thank you for the plug. We are Guys on Network. You can find us on the YouTube channel, all social media outlets. We're GON Podcast or GON Pod. And like you said, every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, join us, man. The Fantasy Life Championship. We stream it every Tuesday at 7. It's a blast. We're having a great time with it.
Yeah, and even if you don't, even if you just want to watch the site, you can get into the draft too. So these are open. You can sign up, get in a Fantasy Life Championship draft, and then hear these guys break it down on Guys on Network on YouTube. It's a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, we're typically a free square, so it's all right. You can hop on there. It's like you're in an 11-man league.
Give yourself some credit there, Mark. Give yourself some credit. All right, we're going to do receivers today, Mark, and I feel like this position's changed just a hair this year. At least on RealTime Fantasy Sports, the running backs have gotten pushed up a little more. Last year, it seemed more receiver heavy early in the draft. This year, it's still fairly receiver heavy, but not quite as past the past year or two. Do you agree with that assessment a little bit?
I do, and I think the only reason is because there's a pretty steep drop off with running backs. So I know everyone wants to go out there and get them early.
Mm-hmm.
After that first 10 or so running backs, it's a pretty steep cliff. So I think that's the only reason why you haven't seen receiver go as heavy as it has the last couple of years. I will tell you, the last 2 years on RT, receiver did go pretty fast and furious.
Yep.
But again, it's because you're getting great value at wide receiver this year, I feel like.
So here's my big question to you now. We're heading into drafts, and everybody's drafting right now. But how are you attacking this receiver position? You going early and often, like it's been the case past couple of years on our site? Or you maybe not going that route? You kind of just mentioned like some of the value later. How are you kind of attacking the receiver position come draft day?
So we've had a couple of different approaches with the podcast when we're doing the drafts on Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm.
We just deployed. We had the 12 pick in the most recent, so they kind of forced our hand. We kind of had to go running back because we knew we weren't going to be happy with what we had coming back to us. However, I do a bunch of the drafts on the side too because, like you said, I do like to play a lot of the tournaments on this site. So I attacked this last one from the 12 spot, wide receiver. I am a wide receiver guy and PPR back, so I've found some value with PPR backs a little bit later where I can drill wide receiver heavy. And I tend to, when I go wide receiver, I usually end up starting those drafts with 4 wide receivers.
Interesting. You go 4. Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of the same way as you. I'm kind of just fluid with it all. But if I'm picking towards the end, I seem like I tend to go receiver. At times, I've done the Neighbors Thomas combo. And in the middle of drafts, quite frankly, too, if the top 3 running backs are gone, I'm all over CeeDee Lamb. Absolutely love him in the middle, like the 5th, 6th pick. That's one of my favorite targets to have in the first round after those 3 elite backs are gone. But I'm a running back guy through and through, and I'm usually having at least 1 or 2 on my roster after the first 3 rounds of the draft. I still think you need to get an anchor receiver, though. There's a lot of good ones this year, but I think there's only so many that can push that 100 reception mark. So I think it's important to at least have one of those guys on your roster. And as you mentioned as well, I think there's some good value to be had in the middle rounds for receivers also. But I kind of feel like that's the case with running backs too. So I kind of feel this year you could win a few different ways. I think there's some different strategies to employ, and I think you can have success with a lot of them, quite frankly.
I don't disagree there. I tell you, like you said, very fluid. It really, draft position does matter.
Yeah.
Really dictates where you have to go. And for whatever reason, I always find myself, like I was saying, like when I start wide receiver, I typically start wide receiver. I've always been one that I hammer a position to make sure I get all the top guys before I start to shift gears. So I have to every once in a while I have to reel it back and really, train myself to split the rounds up, go wide receiver, running back, or vice versa. But to your point, it's very important to get those 100 reception guys for sure. And more
Yeah.
importantly, those guys that get, 130, 140 plus targets.
Yep, for sure. So before we get into players we're targeting, I thought we might start with players we're kind of avoiding. So who do you think in the top 20 ADP currently for wide receivers could be a bust this year? Is there any guy you're just kind of out on?
There is, and I hate to admit it because I love watching him play. I love how hard he plays. But for me, Puka Nakua, where you have to get him,
Hmm.
it's very difficult for me to pull the trigger. They brought Devontae Adams in. I know Devontae's a little bit older, but he didn't really show any signs of slowing down last year. It was it was more of a showcase of how old Aaron Rodgers has gotten than it was how old Devontae's gotten. I just see Devontae demanding a high target share there. I think they're going to work in Kyron Williams and their younger backs. That rookie that they have, that Jarquez Hunter, he's been showing out. You know,
Hmm.
I think they have to move the ball around this year, and I don't know. I don't think Nakua is going to be as heavily targeted as he has been in the past.
I think others are kind of onto you as well, Mark, because I see him fall a couple spots in drafts recently of the ones I've watched. So it's kind of intriguing. I think a lot of people share similar concerns to you. And I got a veteran that I hate to even put him on the list because he proves me wrong every year. He just keeps doing it. But Mike Evans, he's 31 years old. They force fed him the ball late in the season last year to get him 1,000 yards. Emeka Ibuka's there, and he's looked phenomenal. Jalen McMillan, too. I know he got hurt last night, but seems like he avoided something too bad. And I know Chris Godwin could miss time early in the year, but I just still think Evans might be a little too rich for my blood. He's super consistent. They're going to throw the ball a lot. I know, I get it, but if I'm going early on a receiver, I just a little bit worried about Evans, quite frankly, and I think I'd rather get players with a higher ceiling around him, quite frankly.
Yeah, Evans has scared me in years past, but I see all the social media posts now. Everyone's saying, we shouldn't be out on Mike Evans because he just keeps
I
doing
know
it every year. And I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be any different this year, but I do know that Egbuka looks ridiculous.
he does. He's going to, and that's a good segue because my next question is rookie receivers. I feel like Ted McMillan, he's the guy who's the clear top receiver when it comes to fantasy. But after him, there's a big group of guys. I mean, you don't even have to tell me guys that are going to be drafted super high. It could be a late round pick as well. But are there any rookie receivers you're targeting this year?
So the aforementioned Egbuka is one of them, only
Okay.
because, especially early on, people are onto it now. So you're seeing him go a little bit higher. But I
Hmm.
mean, oftentimes I was getting him a little bit later to where he was my wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6. And, for that value, you can't find anything better in my eyes. And now everyone's kind of hip to the game. Now you see him go really early. Some guys draft him as their wide receiver 3. I've seen him go as high as guys wide receiver 2s, for guys that hammer the running back out early. So, that just goes to show how high guys are on him if they figure that they can wait on receiver long enough by hammering out running backs to come and get a Igbuka for their starting lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And I like him as well. I like Matthew Golden too. I feel like though he's kind of like a Buka. He's getting pushed up draft boards a lot. I liked him better when I was getting him really late, and I felt like it was great value. And I still think there's a lot to compete with for targets there, but I think he's clearly the most talented Packers receiver. So I like him a lot. But I want to mention Dante Thornton of the Raiders just because he's probably going to start and he
Yep.
goes for like nothing. He's just a free pick at the end of drafts. I think he's getting pushed up maybe a little bit now, but he's going to start. He's looked really good, and I think the Raiders could be playing from behind a decent amount this year. So I think he's a good, just a guy to take a chance on late in drafts at that rookie receiver spot. And there's always rookie receivers that end up surprising. So Thornton's one guy I'm kind of intrigued by this year, quite frankly.
Yeah, I actually love Thornton. I was loving getting Thornton in that 20th round. That is no longer the
Yeah.
case. Now you have to pull the trigger a little bit earlier on Thornton. I guess one other guy that I'd be a little bit higher on now too is, especially since so a trade just came through. Mechie just got shipped out of Houston to go to
I
Philly,
saw that.
which
Yeah.
which to me means two things. It means that they really are happy with Jaden Higgins being their wide receiver too, because I
Hmm.
don't know that Christian Kirk really factors. And Jalen Noel must have shown enough to be able to let Mechie go, working as that fourth receiver in that unit. So I've become increasingly higher on Jaden Higgins.
Yeah, I feel like I have a lot of shares of him as well, and that's a leads into my next question too. Who are guys you're getting just a lot of shares of in your drafts? Any specific targets for you this year at the receiver spot that you feel like almost every draft you have him on your roster? Maybe a couple guys you want to mention here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I had to take a quick look at my notes because, like I said, I did write down a bunch of stuff here. So early on, I was hammering out like I love Lad McConkey. I do fear that that's going to be a very run first offense, but as far as pass catchers, there's really not much aside from McConkey there. So I think
Hmm.
his target share is just going to be enormous. So I was hammering out McConkey, a lot of Garrett Wilson. Bears fan, Justin Fields when he was in town. Uh, what they say is true. He locks on to the first receiver. That is his read. He just locks on and he'll stick on that receiver. So, I make the joke that Garrett Wilson's going to get 200 plus targets only because Justin Fields doesn't work through his progression. So I've hammered out a lot of Garrett Wilson, but a couple of guys that I absolutely do not leave drafts without, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay.
And, his value seems to be sitting around that fourth round value, which is where I love him. Um, I'll go out and get him in the third round. I just think he's way too talented. I think he demands a huge, huge lion's share of the targets. And then my guy, it's going to seem like a homer pick to you, but Roma Dunze. I mean, if the writing isn't on the wall for everybody with Roma Dunze, then I think they're missing the boat. I really think that Dunze has the potential of being Caleb Williams' number one target. I think Dunze is going to go well over 1,000 yards, and I think he's going to put a lot of tutties on the board too.
What have you heard about DJ Moore? I think I thought I saw something about him, possibly being shipped at some point. Have you heard anything about that being a Bears fan? Because it would kind of make sense with Burden there as well. It looks like Zacchaeus fits that number 3 receiver role also. So I'm just kind of intrigued if you've heard anything there with DJ Moore.
Yeah, I know that he's happy there, and I know they're happy with him. But
Okay.
I believe there is a clause where they can get out of the contract, and Chicago is still, for the better part, they're still building. So I don't know that they're a win now. So it would only make sense to get out from underneath of his contract, and I think that's what they're doing, putting these pieces together. I think Zacchaeus might be another stopgap guy. I think they got their two guys in Adunze and Burden, and they'll
Yeah.
probably look to bring in somebody else young again next year. And for that reason, I don't know, the chemistry with Caleb Williams and Adunze was so incredible last year that I'm pretty low on DJ Moore this year.
Okay, and I'll give you a couple of my targets I like too. I feel like I have tons of shares of these guys, but Tet McMillan, even with his price tag going up, I still love him in Carolina because I just think he's going to get a ton of targets. I don't think Thielen has much left in the tank, and I do like Jatavion Sanders as well. I think he's kind of a good late round dart throw, but I love McMillan. I think he's going to have a huge rookie season, kind of around that Neighbors and Thomas uh, profile, in my opinion, pushing 100 receptions. So I love him. I love Calvin Ridley too. Same reasons I like McMillan. I just don't think there's anybody there to compete with for targets for Ridley. And he had a good year last year, and he had Will Levis throwing him passes most of the year. If Cam Ward
True.
can come in and do anything, I mean, I just think Ridley's just a great, great pick, especially for his price tag. And my last one's the same way as well as Jacoby Myers. I feel like I get him in the 8th round of every draft, but he's the number 1 target for the Raiders. He had a 1,000-yard season last year. I think Geno Smith's an upgrade at quarterback, so I'll take him all day as a 3 or 4 receiver. So those are 3 of my guys I really am intrigued by this year. And my next question is buy low candidates. I mean, some of those guys could fit into the bill that we've talked about. But are there any players that you think, just didn't quite live up to expectations last year, or they've been coming off an injury or whatever? But are there any guys you think carry a good price tag right now that you can take advantage of?
Yeah, well, so Adunze being one of them. Adunze again is another. He's a buy low candidate only because you're getting him as your wide receiver 4. If you wait until rounds like 6 or 7 to get him. Um, I don't know what it is, but increasingly higher demand from me with Debo Samuel. I just think for some reason I think the stars are aligning for Debo to have a rebound season. I know we've seen nothing like we did of Debo a couple seasons ago, but that holdout with McLaurin, so missing a lot of camp. Jaden Daniels in his second year, love him or hate him, he's definitely going to run the ball a lot. But I think they're also going to look to get the ball into the hands of Debo a bunch. And Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton is now finally starting to move up the board pretty decently.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot like some of the guys that you mentioned, aside from having a couple other younger guys, on the opposite side of the field as him, Cortland Sutton doesn't have a whole lot of competition for the lion's share of targets.
No, that's very true. I think Ingram's his main competition there, but you're right. I've had Cortland Sutton a lot in recent seasons. He's finally paid off for me last year. Hopefully, that's a case again this year. A couple guys for me. Michael Pittman's one. I know it's the Colts and Anthony Richardson doesn't look great throwing a ball. Daniel Jones doesn't either, but Pittman had 88 or more receptions 3 straight seasons before last year. And last year he was hurt most of the season with a back injury. He's another guy. You can get him super cheap, and I just think he's worth the risk for the price tag he has. And Jalen Waddle too. I'm really kind of coming around to him because of the whole Tyreek Hill situation. Who knows what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill? He's a wild card. And last year too, Waddle, didn't hit that 1,000-yard mark for the first time in 3 seasons. But again, Tua was hurt, banged up with the concussion issues. So that's always a factor. I think Waddle's a guy that could come on strong this year, especially if something ends up happening with Hill where they end up shipping him or whatever, and he becomes the number 1 receiver. I think he's pretty good value at this point.
Yeah, I think I have been, I've been liking Waddle a lot more as of recent too. I think the only guarantee out of Tyreek Hill at this point in his career is he's going to have another kid or two this year. That's about all that's guaranteed. With
that is a guarantee. Yeah. Mark it down. All right, last question for you, Mark. Late round dart throws. Guys, you just feel like you can take a chance on late in the draft. We have some deeper formats on our site, so you can get pretty deep at times, picking up a 5-6 receivers, or even 7 if you're in best ball format. So any guys you like a lot to take a chance on really late in drafts?
Yeah. So there's 2 overall situations that I like. And you mentioned one, right? Because of the quarterback play in Indianapolis, Pittman and Downs are late round dart throwers at this point because they're going so late in the game that I think you get a lot of value there. And out in Pittsburgh, the competition for the wide receiver too, Roman Wilson is looking fantastic, and you have Calvin Austin, who's just an absolute flyer.
Yeah.
I think there's some guys that you can definitely take dart throws with. Keon Coleman, although Keon Coleman is shooting up the boards lately, and I hate it because I was getting Coleman so late, and I'm just like, I don't want to commit, not, with the uncertainty of that passing attack in Buffalo. Although I think Keon will be, I think he's going to have a pretty decent season. I just don't know if he's going to have, round 10 Keon Coleman drafting and stuff, if it's going to be that good. But I definitely liked him later in the rounds. And then just a couple other rookies. You mentioned Deontay Thornton. Like he was a dart throw at one point, but now you do have to plan to get him. But that Detroit rookie, that Isaac Tesla, and also Denver's Pat Bryant. I think by the end of the year, I think he's going to be the guy that's aside Cortland Sutton competing for targets.
Yeah, I like that. I like all those calls. Couple guys for me, I feel like I'm getting a lot of shares of. Cedric Tillman. I hate the situation in Cleveland with the QBs, but if Flacco's if Flacco's a QB, he's going to throw it around, and Tillman's going to be the number 2, especially in a best ball format. I love Tillman. I think he's going to disappear some weeks, but I think some weeks he could get 100+ yards. And, in best ball, you can get away with that. And the same way with Diami Brown of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think he's going to be the number 2. I mean, Travis Hunter's there. I realize they're going to play him, but I think Brown's going to get consistent playing time. They're going to throw the ball a lot with Liam Cohen as their head coach. So I think Brown's a guy that could be really intriguing this year for Jacksonville, moving into a more prominent role from day one. And he's going to be along some good receivers too. So he might get some favorable coverages. Those are 2 guys I think could do really well this year.
Yeah, I think you need to stay out of my best ball drafts then, because you're definitely you're hitting on some guys that I definitely like to take dart throws at late too when they're sticking around.
Mark, I appreciate you coming on and going over this receiver preview with me today. It's been a lot of fun getting your insight on everything. And again, if people want to check your stuff out, Guys on Network is the YouTube channel. He streams a draft every Tuesday night, Fantasy Life Championship as well. So, Mark, I really appreciate you coming on once again.
It's been a pleasure. Love RT Sports. Like I said, greatest software in the game. I've been there since I'm dating myself. We used to do a home league on RT Sports. My second year in the league was Marshawn Lynch's rookie year. So we're going back early 2000s, man. I've been around RT for a long time.
Nice. And we appreciate that, Mark. Appreciate it. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that was Mark Mullin, one of the top-rated players on our site, and he's on the YouTube channel, Guys on Network, broadcast drafts live on there. Really appreciate him coming on and previewing that receiver position with me. And I appreciate everybody watching today, and good luck in all your upcoming drafts. Put this knowledge to use and get in a draft here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. Thanks again.